Hey beautiful people, coming to you yet again from a quite different setting. I got lots to do today. I'm unable to go to the studio to record, so I thought why not bring you with me into my day-to-day. So let's look at this together. It's perfect for you.
Ah, she's like singing out of my soul. Sometimes we get lost in our own little world, but it's all so much bigger than we realize.
Dax continues to put out amazing music that has us thinking, pondering things that is relatable to many of us, men and women alike. I'm curious to see what a real man is about. Can men relate to it? Will women be able to pull something from it? Will we disagree or agree? Will we be able to find some type of encouragement, feedback, or information that may be helpful to us as women? You know, titles sometimes have us thinking that it's just for one or the other group, and maybe all of us can learn from one another. Always with those hooks, man. That electric guitar intro.
Yeah, yo.
So catchy.
Yeah, she says she wants a real man. One who opens up the door, holds her hand and still smiles when he feels bad. In control of his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, but don't get mad. One who gives her all his time, puts his dreams to the side and gets a real bag. Yeah, she says she wants a real man, but what she wants is not for real, man. Realest story ever told. Can't have a man who's making money, always home. Hard like a truck, that's why he's always on the road, providing everything you need to live the life you say you want. Can't have a man who wears his heart on a sleeve that won't rip once a while at the seams, especially if you never take the time to look into his eyes and hear him when he silently screams. Yeah, she says she wants a real man. One who opens up the door, holds her hand and still smiles when he feels bad.
We got a notice from the electric company.
In control of his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, but don't get mad. One who gives her all his time, puts his dreams to the side and gets a real bag.
Give me 2 more days.
Yeah, she says she wants a real man, but what she wants is not for real. That Disney movie that she wanted was a dream and not reality, or something that she got.
Hey, honey,
Put that man
almost
up on a
home.
pedestal, discards him when she found out he was human and he dropped. He's not perfect,
We're really
but
backed
he
up today because
tries
we're
to
short-staffed.
live up
Yeah.
to
I tried to
her
cut-
beautiful
No,
lies.
it's fine. It's fine.
The
We could
man
always
he
do
once
another
knew
night.
on the inside him died. Yeah, she says she wants a real man. One who opens up the door, holds her hand and still smiles when he feels bad. In control of his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, but don't get mad. One who gives her all his time, puts his dreams to the side and gets a real bag. Yeah, she says she wants a real man, but what she wants is not for real, man. Love is patient, love is kind, can be evil and also blind. God made man, then said in life he'll find good things when he finds his wife. So as a real man, broken and confused, struggling not knowing what to do, he dove to the bottom of the bottle, drowned in his sorrows, and prayed one day she would rescue. By stop pointing out all his mistakes, be the place he felt safe to express the emotions the world said he can't. He's the rock that she needs, but she hammers away at the love that he has, like she wants it to break. Despite all of the pain, twisted and changed, trying to become the whole picture she paints, till she woke up one day, said she's walking away, looked him dead in the face and then screamed. Yeah, she says she wants a real man. One who opens up the door, holds her hand and still smiles when he feels bad. In control of his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, but don't get mad. One who gives her all his time, puts his dreams to the side and gets a real bag. Yeah, she says she wants a real man, but what she wants is not for real, man.
Ah, this is heavy. Before I dive into the, the heavy topic here in the lyrics, when I say things like, wow, that hook is great, that beat is awesome, I'm not trying to dismiss how heavy and significant these lyrics are and this song is. So please understand when I say that, I'm not making light of it. The hooks that Dax brings to his songs are really awesome. And the reason why I say that is not just because it makes for catchy tunes that get stuck in your head, but is also good because it makes it relatable and available to a wider audience. It's not a niche genre, if you will. There's that hip hop beat, elements of pop, the electric guitar bringing in a level of ballad and soulfulness, right? And so I feel like that covers a whole range of people's taste in music. And that's great because this song is relatable to many of you. That's the musical composition. And the way that he picked this track, I also find to be fitting to the lyrics because it's sombering. It taps into those sad feelings. It taps into a reflective mode. The musical video was also very relatable, always great cinematography and videography with Dax's songs. You've got these real men, these real people going about their day-to-day. There are stories that we can relate to. And just like with To Be a Man, there was a message there that really touched millions of men. And it's tricky to react and analyze to these songs as a female, as a woman, because just as much as you have men who may want to chime in on topics that are more relatable to women, and women might find themselves getting defensive, you may have that among men. You may have a woman reacting to analyzing something and a man goes, you can't speak on this. You're not a man. You're not a man. What do you know? Or you may have a man try to talk about women's topics, and I say women and men topics loosely, and a woman goes, ooh, you don't have anything to say. My opinion is that we're all more connected than we realize, and we could all learn from one another. And so, for example, where if a man wants to talk about women or children, I find it wrong for a woman to say, if you have no uterus, you have no say. I strongly disagree with that because it takes both of us to create new life. And while a man doesn't walk in the shoes of women, that doesn't mean that they don't have valid feedback, input, and their skills and often just predisposition to want to solve problems and help can be very beneficial to women if we humble ourselves long enough to listen. But I would argue the same goes vice versa, that a woman's perspective might bring new light. So I want to do this as sensitive as possible because this is a very personal song and it'll be different from coming from me as a woman. I have to say I'm feeling a lot of things right now. I'm feeling convicted on one hand because I have made mistakes in my life where I was too critical, where I hammered away, where I spoke from a place of anger, and I didn't recognize the burden and the pain that men carry. I forgot or I didn't understand fully the weight that is on men, right? And I do believe there was a need for a time for women to fight for their rights, men and women to come together to fight for women's rights. I know that there was a time where that was necessary and sometimes still is, right? There's still countries where girls are not allowed to go to school or get an education, or there's oppression, right? Because often it is the physically more weak or vulnerable that will be the first to be oppressed or attacked, right? Women and children. And so naturally, biologically, men are often, generally speaking, physically more prone to strength if we were to just, compare generally. And so when it comes to war, to conquering, a lot of times it's the men that would have the upper hand. And there was a time and a need for women to fight for their rights, to have the right to vote, have the right to speak up, to be seen as equals, just as much as different races, different ethnic groups, just as much as we're learning in child development that children need to be treated and raised a certain way and shouldn't just be oppressed or pushed aside like they're a lesser human. We're learning as we develop, as we evolve, okay? And so there was a time for that. But I feel like now we're in a time where there's also a time for men to be lifted up again. I feel like we're in a time where if we're not careful and we swing to the other extreme, we think, oh, women are the one who are oppressed. We're the one who have to fight for justice. We're the one who are losing rights and you kumbaya and such and such. And that may be true in certain places, but it also is true, especially in the West, when it comes to men, where men are ridiculed for having emotions, where men are put down or criticized, and where men feel alone. And I think for us women, it's important to see this and listen to this and go, wow, because this should be beyond, oh, nice song. Oh, wow, this is what men are feeling. This should be an urge, I guess, an exhortation is maybe the better word, an encouragement for us women, how we approach men, how we present ourselves as women, and what we can or can't be towards the men in our home. And it's always good. Empathy is a powerful tool. It's a very therapeutic tool. It's a powerful tool for stress release. It's powerful on the workforce, as leaders, in relationships. Empathy is a very, very powerful, healthy thing. And so I think there's benefit for us to practice empathy as men and women and go, you know what, let me put my feelings aside for a second and empathize with what this person's trying to say. Let me not make it about me or about the women's perspective. This song was meant for men. There's a lot of song out there for women. Some of these songs are for men. Let them have that. They need this. They need that encouragement, and they need it to come from another man. If a woman were to sing A Real Man, even if she had the exact same lyrics, it wouldn't have the same message as it coming from Dax. and seeing real men going about their day. I think men can relate to that more. It's kind of like the same for women. Sometimes we need to talk to a girlfriend or a female who really understands what it's like to carry a child in your room or be alone with kids all day, and the loneliness that comes with that. That can only be put in words so far. So I think it's powerful that Dax is creating these songs, being a man speaking to men. I think there is a great need for mentors, fathers, men, brothers to come together, encourage one another, especially because the way that the world presents it, at least to me, I had certain biases where I thought, well, when men come together, it's, foul talk, locker room perversion. And I felt like there was a need for a lack of accountability, encouragement, men that come together and lift each other up, that are not there to spur each other on in lust and confusion and, encourage one another to already do things that are destructive to the individual possibly, but instead being a safe place to cheer each other on, to do good, to do right. And this is why this is so powerful. And so I have to admit, it's convicting. I find myself emotional because I have been that woman that has expectations, that's having a hard time breaking away from just seeing my hurt, my perspective, humbled by all the weight that men carry. And I've had those moments before where I thought, man, I would not want to be a man. I'm grateful I'm a woman. Not that we don't have our own share of suffering. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling what we carry. But as a man, the responsibility for your wife, your kids, in society, we forget that very easily. And it's humbling and it's admirable. And the men deserve respect. I think a lot of times when people get defensive about a certain message, we always have to assess why. Sometimes we speak from a place of hurt. And that's where I had to assess myself and my thoughts as well, because I noticed myself feeling convicted, feeling empathy, sad for men, and ashamed where I have been too critical. I have not been realistic enough or not understanding enough or hammering away, as he said. That line really got me, hammering away at that love. But then at the same time, I felt a level of defensiveness. And so it's important for us to self-assess whenever we listen to anything. That goes for men listening to songs targeted towards women, women towards men, things about anything and everything. Assessing, why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? And assessing what place we're in before we even listen. Am I in a place of defensiveness right now? Am I hurt and I'm coming to this with hurt? And therefore I'm going to look at it through that lens. Am I coming at it with an open mind? What is affecting my lens right now? And the same goes for listening to these analysis and reactions, right? Where am I coming from with this? How do I feel? What mindset am I in? Am I willing to hear Rosalie's opinion without getting defensive? Or why may I view her a certain way? We're always transferring and projecting, right? You may see me here with my coffee cup and my mama t-shirt in my kitchen, and it might remind you of someone or something, or you might judge me, or you might transfer feelings you have towards someone else onto me. It may be feelings of fondness, feelings of disgust or rejection. All these things affect how we perceive what people say. The lyrics say this. Yeah, she said she wants a real man. Hold your hand and still smiles when he feels bad. That line caught my attention because I thought, no, I don't want the man to always just smile when he feels bad. I want honesty and authenticity. I want to be able to connect by being real with one another. But if I'm honest with myself for a second, I guess it depends on my mood. Because there's times where I don't want a fake smile. I want us to talk and connect. I would want a man to open up. But then at the same time, I suppose when the man gets angry or has a bad mood, I also am frustrated. And that's actually what he says next. In control of his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, but don't get mad. And so now the next slide kind of calls me out on that thought process, because the idea is, I do want you to be open. I do want you to show your feelings. I want us to connect emotionally. Yet when the man gets mad or does wear his heart on his sleeve, we get angry. And I think the dilemma sometimes is we women want men to wear their heart on their sleeves. We want them to show their emotions, but we don't understand that their emotions will be shown differently than ours. We may be more prone to crying, to external processing, talking about our feelings, expressing the joy and the sadness, speaking generally, okay? Of course, women vary, men vary in personality and behavior and how you were raised, etc., what was modeled to you. But where a woman may, just as an example, say, I want my husband or my spouse or my boyfriend, man, to open up and wear their heart on their sleeves. Now, when they do show their emotion, but it comes out as anger, we may get defensive when we go, oh, no, don't you. And here too, there's a need for balance. If a man is constantly letting out his anger, being abusive, then this is not the place to talk about, oh, you guys are just mad that men are getting angry. I don't think this line is about that, though, about a man who can't control his anger, has a temper, is abusive. And a woman who has experienced that, though, who may have experienced the man who is often in rage, a woman perhaps who had to learn to trust herself, to establish boundaries, and to realize this is expressing anger, a valid emotion, and this is a man who is constantly enraged, and that is not okay to be talked to like that. A woman who's had to navigate that or experience some of the unhealthy patterns, she may listen to this and be more defensive, right? So we always have to assess what has been our experience. And I think what he's talking about here is your average, hardworking, good, loving man, not the abusive kind, not the one who's just angry all the time. The idea here is this expectation of a woman who wants a man to be real and honest, but then when he gets mad, that's a no-no. She wants the door to be open. She has this Disney dream, but then she gets mad if he can't meet all her expectations. And I will say this, I think there's a lot of validity to that. I will, however, say that I think that goes both ways. And I'm not saying that to go, oh, but what about our side of the story, right? When the script is flipped, women also don't like that. Women sharing about how they feel, and a man goes, well, but what about us, right? Nobody wants, when they're spoken about, when somebody is focusing on their pain, nobody wants for that pain to be dismissed by people screaming, but what about us? A lot of struggles in relationship come into play where there's unmet expectations. We have this idea of what a man or a woman or our spouse is supposed to do, and then they don't, and we feel hurt. Then it says, one who gives her all his time, puts his dream to the side, and gets a real bag. And I think this line of the lyrics focuses on this idea of she wants him to make that money, get the bag, but put his dreams on the side. And it's this dilemma of expecting him to provide. He's supposed to put his dreams on the side so she can have the life she wants, the house, the furniture, the car. And I think this depends on the woman. There's plenty of women out there who have their expectations. Sometimes I do feel like we women are misunderstood, though, in regard to the things we long for. Sure, we may express a lot of wishes, and, oh, I would like this, I wish myself that. And the man, because of his love for her, wants to provide. But sometimes I also think that, and this is where women have to do better at communicating what they actually need and maybe be more specific, right? If I'm spending all my time going, oh, I'd like that, and oh, this needs to be fixed, and oh, I wish myself this, naturally, the love of the man is going to want him to provide all that. But if what the woman was actually looking for is connection, actually just some time together, even if it's just a simple sandwich picnic on a blanket that showed the effort of him to spend time with her, if that's what actually is underneath all these mentions and requests, we women have to do better at being specific about it. Sometimes I feel we women may be misunderstood because we're so lonely at home with the kids all day. And just as much as the man is silently carrying a burden, the woman is too. And though she may talk about it and she may nag or seem to nag, there's a hurt or an underlying need. And that's where men and women often miss each other. Men get mad because the woman is nagging. Here's another thing, another complaint. Nothing I do is right. And it's hard for a man because they're defensive. They feel attacked. They're painted as the problem by the woman. So now naturally, they're going to have a hard time hearing her hurt through her nagging. They're going to have a hard time putting on a therapeutic lens and going, what is this really about? She's lonely. She's overwhelmed. She's been with kids all day. Somebody wants something from her. Everybody is pulling on her and she's overwhelmed. It's hard for a man to see through that if he's being nagged at and attacked. In the same sense, sometimes I think we women need to do better at putting our therapeutic lens on and going, where is the husband at? How is his mental health? How is he doing? And what is the underlying need behind the things he is saying or not saying? The song is, I think, this reminder for men. This is the realest story ever told. Can't have a man who's making money always home. That dilemma too, that line too got me also, because yes, I can also relate to that frustration of the woman wanting the man home more, being present, but then wanting those needs to be met, wanting the man to provide. Well, how can he do both? He can't do both. And there's that cognitive dissonance in women sometimes where we have those expectations and we don't realize what it takes. And I think that's a fair argument, a fair reminder for us women. Hey, you want those things that you're asking for. You want a certain lifestyle. If you're not willing to live in a car, out in a tent, or in a little one-bedroom apartment, and you want certain things for yourself and your kids, that means the man's got to work. But then we complain when they're not home. And that was convicting to me to hear that. At the same time, this too will depend on the man. There are men who are really out there working. He couldn't make it to date night in that music video because he was working, because he was late on a bill, because he was trying to make her happy and provide. And so she's sad, taking off her earrings, falls asleep on the couch. He still comes home with flowers. After all the men that are going through, after everything men are doing, still he's trying to do something nice, brings her flowers, and then carries her to bed. Beautiful, beautiful, just expression of love. But because he's hurting now, he turns to the bottle. And so it really shows the hurt of a man. But the irony, the sad part is now she's mad at him. She's attacking him for drinking. And it shows this side of the story, the part of the conversation that women need to be reminded of. Men are hurting. They're carrying a burden. And we need to remember we're in this together. We're not enemies. I sometimes forget that, and that's a lesson I have to learn in marriage. Even when there's an argument, we're not enemies. We're not against each other. This is the story for many men. That's why this song is not meant for women and women's plight, though there's plenty of those situations. And part of me wishes Dax would write a song for us women because he just does so well at really communicating hurt, people hurting. And, you know, I'm tempted to be like, yes, and I feel bad and I want to do better as a woman, but women are hurting too, and we're lonely out here with the kids and life, and it's hard. But this song is not for women right now. This is not for the hardships women go through. This song is meant for men. And it's also not meant for every man, because I could see some women getting defensive because in this case, the man missed the date night because he was working late and he was trying to provide and the bills were late. But there's situations, many women's stories, where it's not because the man is trying to work hard. He's out maybe cheating, or he is spending more time on his hobbies and investing in himself than his wife and his kids. And so I think women may hear that. And again, that's why we have to assess, where are we coming from? What lens are we looking at things through? Women may hear that and go, you know, I don't have all these expectations. I just want the bare minimum. I want loyalty. I want honesty. So this story here is not every woman's or every man's story. But I think there too, we have to remember this song is not meant for the men who can't control their anger and are being abusive. This is meant for the men who are trying so hard and women still are hammering them apart, and women are still missing the fact that we can't both want men to be honest about their feelings, but then when they show them, but it happens to be anger or an emotion that we don't want to perceive, now we get angry or mad or defensive. Oh no, you show your emotion, just not that one, right? Speak more, but just not about that. Talk to me, open up to me, but not in this way, right? This song is meant for that type of behavior where we have these expectations, but there's a cognitive dissonance. The world may have us believing men are all pigs, and they're all they want is just sex, and they're just out here to cheat. But that's a message that has been projected and portrayed by hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. And a woman who has been abused, who has had a man who couldn't control his anger, or a woman who's been cheated on, even though she tried her best, who was then told by society, maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you let yourself go. Maybe you shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's painful to be dismissed like that. Everybody's story is different, and it really is important that we assess, who are we? What are we looking at this through? To me, I think that's what all of us long for, acceptance. Women want to be accepted for their beauty, for their talent, for their knowledge, for their ability, not dismissed or seen as less. Men want to be seen and accepted for who they are, and not ping-pong back and forth, and not made to feel like less than. And I think a lot of men feel that way. A lot of men responded with that to Dax's song, To Be a Man. I think many men shared their hurt and their real-life stories, and maybe this is where that song was birthed from. The bridge then speaks, or the next verse then speaks of love is patient and kind. That's a quote from the scriptures, 1 Corinthians 13. And then he says it can be evil and blind. It's a good rhyme scheme, poetic. The question would be, well, is it love then? If it's evil and blind, is that really love then? Or are we now talking about manipulation and codependency? God made man, then said, in life he'll find the good things when he finds his wife. Also a reference to a scripture. So as a real man, broken and confused, struggling, not knowing what to do, he dove to the bottom of the bottle, drowned in his sorrows, and prayed one day she would rescue. By stop pointing out all his mistakes, be the place he felt safe. And it's interesting here, when it speaks of wishing that the woman would rescue him, it's not speaking of a physical strength or trying to fix all his problems. It's simply stop being a problem to him. Stop pointing fingers and accept him and be a safe place. And there too is a convicting reminder for us women to be a place of love and a place of nurturing and a place of comfort. Men long for that. We get that. We're supposed to get it from our mothers. We long for that. Men long for that from their wives. Not because it's her job to be his mama, but that instinctual female nurturing that we have that a man longs for. Just as much as we don't want our men to be our daddies in, a literal sense, but we want that protection, the comfort. We want them to be strong, to show up in a loving, accepting way. And the chorus continues. She screams. The woman walks away. She's done, abandoning the man and repeating that chorus. It's a convicting song as a woman to be better for the men in my life, for the man in my life, the way that I engage with my husband, but also the way that I model that for my sons, so that they can have a better idea of what and who to pick in the future, right? So they have a good example of what type of woman to be drawn to, what type of boundaries to have, and what type of woman not to bind themselves to in the future based on what they saw modeled in me. That I carry a great responsibility as a woman to take this and say, okay, I need to do better. There too, we have to really practice self-awareness. as women and as men, to take this and say, what can I learn from this to become better? Not to use it as a weapon, not to use it as an excuse, right? Even for men, not to take this now. And when the woman cries or the woman nags or the woman is frustrated and says, I'm lonely, for the man to go, oh, see, just like Dak said, and the real man, right? A real man, you're just doing this and this and that. Not to dismiss her either, because you feel so understood and now there's a good reason for why you do what you do. Oh, I just drink because I've seen examples of that being flipped. I would see relationships around me and a man may practice toxic behavior, drinking, being abusive, and now manipulates and tells the woman it's her fault and abuses her and says, if she were better, he wouldn't be mean to her. If she were better, he wouldn't drink. And that is toxic too. So I think that the important thing is here that we all assess our own life. What is the good thing we can pull out of this, all for ourselves, to be the best we can be, without now using it as an excuse, without now women taking and getting defensive, speaking and responding from a place of hurt, allowing ourselves to be humbled, finding inspiration to be better, men finding comfort in this, finding themselves understood and seen, inspired, I hope, maybe comforted, but also not using this as an excuse now to say, oh yeah, see, Dak said it so well. And as soon as they hear a woman nag or they hear a story about a woman who left, going, oh yeah, all women are the same. They all just leave and they drop the men like, whatever. Or, oh, all women just nag. Let's treat each other with love, men and women. Let's not be so quick to generalize. Not all women are the same. Not all men are the same. Not all men are good like this man in this video. Not all women are just out to nag and destroy and hammer away at a man. So I think this is a powerful song that really, Dax really keeps doing that. He's really real with us. He's really letting us in on real life scenarios, real talk, and I respect it. What does the song do for you? What are you pulling out of it? And how can you be the best, a better version of yourself through songs like this? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for hanging with me in my kitchen today. I'll see you on the next ride. Heyo!